to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as Joe Judge continues to fill up the New York Giants coaching staff. He actually hired two coaches today. I'll have a separate video on Brett Bielema, who I've done a video on in the past, and I am a big fan of that hire. I think the Giants got a steal there now. I don't know his exact role yet. They initially said D-line coach. Now I'm seeing some reports as they have not identified what his exact role will be. But the fact he's going to be involved in the New York Giants defense in any capacity, I'm very excited about. But I'll get more into that in that video. In this video, we are going to talk about the new DB coach in Jerome Henderson. Henderson formerly coached with the Atlanta Falcons for 4 years as their defensive passing game coordinator. He has a long history. I'm going to go over the full resume. And some people will point to the fact that he struggled with Atlanta. Obviously, they had the lead 28-3 in the Super Bowl. He was the defensive passing game coordinator for that game. So he needs to be held somewhat responsible. But there are a lot of really good things about his resume. And some of the things that I read that I'm going to show you guys that former coaches and players had to say about Jerome Henderson. And some of the work he has done throughout his career with younger talent, and that is really what stood out to me. Henderson was actually a player in the NFL for quite some time, mainly with the Jets. He got his start in coaching with the Jets, and a lot of great cornerbacks and secondary players blossomed under his tutelage, and I'm going to show you all the names when I go over the quotes, but that's what stands out to me because I said going into the offseason, this was one of the most important positions on the New York Giants coaching staff. I was very outspoken about going out there and getting a Chris Richard. Obviously, that did not happen. We'll have to wait and see. I've read rumors that Richard may get a head coaching gig or defensive coordinator job at the collegiate level. That may be why the New York Giants did not consider him for this job. Henderson also has ties to Jason Garrett. He coached with the Cowboys for a few years there, and that is probably why they brought him in for an interview. But who knows? He is very accomplished, and he's done very good things with younger players. And that's something that the New York Giants have in the secondary, which is why I thought it was one of the most important positions on the coaching staff that needed to be filled. You look in that secondary, they have young, untapped potential, which is what Henderson's been able to do at other stops. He's been able to get the most out of young potential. You look, DeAndre Baker, all these guys, all of them, are very young. Even Peppers is young. And they need somebody that knows what they're doing in that defensive backfield, and hopefully Henderson is the guy that can get it done. And we're going to go over some of the notes and the quotes. We'll start with his resume and the breaking tweet about the hiring of Jerome Henderson. We'll start there with Field Yates. The Giants have hired former Falcons defensive passing game coordinator Jerome Henderson as their defensive backs coach per source. Joe Judge's staff is coming together. And some people are down on this from what I've seen on Twitter. I honestly do not hate this hire, especially when you read some of the things you're going to read. He is 50 years old, which is kind of a senior citizen for this staff, but still relatively young for a coach. But here is his resume. He was a New England Patriot from 91 to 93, Buffalo Bills from 93 to 94, was an Eagle in 95, and Patriot again in 96, and then he finished with the Jets for 2 years from 97 and 98. Then came back to try to become a coach 8 years later in 2006. Got his start with the New York Jets as a director of player development in 2006. 2007, I want you guys to remember who was a pretty famous corner. Darelle Revis. That was his rookie year. Well, in 2007, Jerome Henderson was the assistant DB coach and director of player development. I'm also going to get into more detail as to what Buster Skrine said he did very well with that of Darelle Revis and what he learned from Darelle Revis as a coach. Then was the DB coach for the New York Jets in Revis' second year with the New York Jets. Then got the job with the Cleveland Browns from 2009 to 2011, where he went and developed some more young, talented players in the secondary. Then got the job with the Cowboys from 2012 to 2015, where Jason Garrett saw the potential and probably had some say as to why the New York Giants potentially looked at this guy. And then the last 4 years was the defensive passing game coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. He was not fired from the Cowboys, from what I read. It was a promotion to go over to the Falcons and get the defensive game passing game coordinator title. That is the title that Chris Richard had with the Dallas Cowboys the last couple of years, along with the DB coach. And now, as you see right there, is the New York Giants DB coach for the 2020 season. So let's get into some of the things. We're going to get into his coaching philosophy. We're going to get into some things that were said about him at prior locations. We'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. Henderson joined the Cowboys staff last season and impressed the front office with his ability to improve the secondary play of several players, including rookie cornerback Morris Claiborne and safety Barry Church. Henderson was brought to the Cowboys with previous defensive coordinator Rob Ryan. When Ryan was released last week, there was a thought Henderson would leave with Ryan if he got another position as a DC. But Henderson, like the other defensive coaches, was given permission to interview with other NFL teams until the new defensive coordinator had a chance to interview him. And they decided to stick with him. Later on, he would actually get an opportunity to interview for some head coaching positions. He did such a good job at Dallas. He didn't end up taking them, though. Or getting hired, I should say, for them. This is a breakdown of Jerome Henderson when he first got the job with the Dallas Cowboys. I was able to dig up an article, the Cowboys talking about him and what he did at his prior stops. The man replacing Campo, which was the former defensive backs coach for the Dallas Cowboys, looks like the right man for the job. Jerome Henderson has a good football background and he has experience in the NFL. Henderson spent 8 years in the NFL as a cornerback, so he knows what it takes to play at a high level in the league. His coaching background and credentials are pretty impressive. He spent 2 years coaching the New York Jets. During his time there, he coached some kid named Darelle Revis. When Eric Mangini took his talents to the Cleveland Browns, of course, Mangini was the coach with the New York Jets before Rex Ryan got the gig. Henderson followed, which is why he left the Jets. In Cleveland, he coached T.J. Ward and Joe Hayden. Well, Joe Hayden had a pretty good NFL career, if you ask me. And T.J. Ward was a talented young player as well. Ward and Hayden have very quickly become top players at their respective positions. Take a look at this video, and then they tell you to take a look at the video of his coaching, the way he coaches. But there you go. There's a little background there. He got some great young players, Darelle Revis, T.J. Ward, Joe Hayden, when they were very young, and obviously we saw what they became. So that's a credit to Henderson and why they were excited for him to get the job with the Dallas Cowboys. This is a quote from, this is Buster Screen talking about in 2011, who, also played for the Jets with the Browns, was talking about his experience seeing Jerome Henderson be a very good defensive backs coach with Darelle Revis and how Revis showed him how to do press coverage. Well, there's a guy on our team right now, DeAndre Baker, who's known as a press cover corner, much like a Darelle Revis. So maybe that is a big reason why they brought this guy in. During cornerback Buster Screen's rookie year with the Browns in 2011, his position coach was Jerome Henderson. The Browns played a lot of press coverage, close to wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. To show Screen and Cleveland's other cornerbacks how to effectively defend at the line, Henderson put on film of Darelle Revis. And then he later said, this is Garrett talking about Henderson now. His reputation is outstanding, Garrett says. When you talk to people up and down coming defensive coaches, secondary coaches in this league, Jerome Henderson's name is on the top of all of those lists. He has a good feel for communicating. I think he has a great feel for understanding what a player goes through because of his playing experience, but also has a great understanding of scheme and technique and can convey that to the players. And then I just wanted to go over this as well. This is Henderson talking about his coaching philosophy as a DB coach, as a guy in the secondary. I'd like to have a secondary here that grinds on teams. This is when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. Henderson said, you consistently play with good technique, good discipline, effort, intensity, with good intelligence, and teams are going to make plays on you through the course of the game because they're highly paid and they're highly skilled as well. But over the course of the game, your discipline, your focus, your technique, your study, hopefully will allow you to make more plays. I hope that I have a team of DBs that will play that way. They just fight every play tooth and nail. And to me, that really hit home. I mean, he's talking about technique, practice, hitting home, giving it everything you've got. That's what we've heard from all these coaches, and Joe Judge has expressed that, times infinity in his press conference, right? He was all about technique, practice. Well, it seems like Henderson's a good fit, and based on Henderson's prior history of working with young DBs like a Darelle Revis, like a Hayden, and seeing how they progress throughout their careers, and seeing that we have such a young secondary, I certainly think this could be a very good fit for the New York Giants. Now, remember, he was not a DB's coach with the Atlanta Falcons, so they obviously moved on from him this year, and somebody was going to have to take the fall there. But Henderson has always been thought of, if you go back and look at history, as an up-and-coming coach. And he, like I said, he was interviewed for head coaching positions due to the fact of his success with the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, and the Cleveland Browns. So I like the hire, right? He's 50, like I said. That's a senior citizen for this staff, but he's still relatively young, and a guy that could bring some knowledge to the defensive backfield. The defensive backfield that certainly needs it. We could use all the help we could get with all the youngsters back there. So there's the breakdown of Henderson. I'll have another breakdown of Bielema very shortly. Thank you guys for watching. As always, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.